And we've got some really disappointing news in that given David's presentation, it's going to be pretty hard, a tough act to beat, so to speak. The majority of us are in healthcare. And how many really fun healthcare people have you met? A few? So we also came equipped with a few props, but David and I should have checked. Oh, David and I should have checked as to what our props might be. So anyhow, we are going to do our best and to make things as fun as possible. a little Patch Adams. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, it's actually been based on last year's feedback from this group. And one of the themes that came forward was people not knowing how to navigate through the healthcare system, particularly when it comes to accessing community resources. You mean you don't? It's just not my forte. Exactly. So I really believe in surrounding myself with key leaders within the industry. And we're really fortunate to have a panel of experts joining us here today. And so with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Michelle comes to us. And Michelle, maybe you could just give a little bit of an overview about what your role is and some of the work that you're currently doing that's really innovative in the palliative care industry.
Okay. Thanks, Susan. My company is called Willow EOL for End of Life, and we're really focused on personal growth and development, but disguised as end-of-life planning. Because the inquiry work that we do with people through workshops and coaching is actually about having people be lit up about their lives now by being with the reality of their mortality. So our passion is about helping people wake up before their time's up. And I come to this with a background in social work and business, community development work, community-led arts projects, and also as a licensed funeral director.
And next we have Nardia Brown, and I've known Nardia for about 15 years. And I'm not going to embarrass you, Nardia, but she is the ultimate super nurse. There's nobody that is more versed. There's nobody that is more experienced in the realm of community nursing. So, and she's currently working as a clinical lead for a home care company called Care at Home. And then we have Catherine Rocheleau, who has two aspects to bring to this team, that being that she is a dietitian by trade, but also has a company that deals with leadership and coaching as well. And among our group, she is an award-winning author that she co-wrote with Brian Tracy called The Winning Way. And Jane Coombs, who again is a physiotherapist that we're bringing to the team and works with a multinational company called LifeMark and dealing again with rehab services. And we were incredibly fortunate to have Jane Webley, who is the practice lead for palliative care for Vancouver Coastal Health, to come to join us today to speak to questions that may relate to any end-of-life care issues as well. And then we have my colleague, David Hunt. And when David coordinated this session, he actually named this session "How to Get Home, How to Get Room Service at Home." And I tried everything from a faulty towers. I tried everything from a faulty towers scenario. So David is here as our prop. So next, so just in terms of accessing care, what does the current landscape look like? What are we up against? Well, what we do know is that by 2030, oh, is it? Okay, sorry about that. So that by 2030, which is just over a decade, 25% of us will be seniors. So this exercise is going to take a little bit of math. Add 12 years, 13, and how many of us in the room will be over 65? So we kind of meet that demographic. So which translates to 8 million Canadians will be over the age of 65. There'll be a lot of us out there. Okay. And so how many people here currently live in their own home and apartment? How many people, if you had the right resources in place, would want to remain at home? How many would want to die at home? Okay. So you are in keeping with what Canadians have articulated through many stakeholder conversations. The unfortunate thing is, and don't look at your paper, so we've got an aging demographic, more than likely over 65, we have chronic health concerns and health needs. What proportion of the Canadian budget is dedicated to community health? Don't look. Guesses. 1%. Anybody else? 10%. I'll go one more. 5. So turn your page and it's 5%. So with all of the competing initiatives within healthcare, 5% is dedicated to home care nursing, to the work that Dr. Hunt does in palliative care. Actually, the work that all of these professionals do would come under that budget. Pippa, would it come? Would any?
I don't think they really know.
Yeah.
Because they don't count it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is good news. I think we needed to practice that one a little better. And the dollar store does not have tweets that have noise, which is unfortunate. But the good news being is with the recent health accord allocation of $1 billion that has been dedicated specifically for initiatives in BC. So that's our good news. I know, well, you're not the first person to have said that, actually. Okay, so the comment was indicating that I'm not sure that those monies will be spent in the appropriate manner, and that being to home care. And I'm indicated that you're not the first person to say that. Okay. David?
Room service. So, really, the opportunities are totally wide open for all of us. It's all about thinking ahead, planning ahead. The opportunities are whatever we want. And the important thing is to plan ahead. We have wonderful resources in the community. We need, you're being given a booklet that will direct you to a whole variety of different sources for help. And you can plan your future years effectively and have the quality of life you want. And hopefully, you'll be able to end your days where you want to. Room service. Call for Philip Morris.
Thank you, David. The booklet he's referring to may or may not be in front of you. Hopefully it is. It's this one right here. There are a bundle more of these booklets, as well as some additional resources just around the corner where lunch was served on this wall here. So it's just in that back area. Please help yourself. So the Bucket List Festival. For many of us, that might be a familiar phrase, but for some it may not be. So a bucket list is typically thought of as a list of things that a person might want to accomplish or experience before they kick the bucket, otherwise known as die. The great thing about a bucket list is it actually has you acknowledge and accept on some level the reality of your mortality. That's the good news. I'm wondering, what's on your bucket list? Can we hear a few ideas about things that you'd like to accomplish or achieve before you die? In other words, who and what matters to you? What's on your bucket list? And do we have the volunteers with the microphones?
One person said travel.
Travel, we heard travel. What else?
Swim with the belugas in, not over there, but way up there.
Okay. Someone at the back?
Okay, here. My bucket list is just spending more time with my whole family. I'm facing that reality right now, and it's the most important thing.
Okay. So there are many, many different ideas around what might be on that bucket list. But for each of you individually, regardless of your circumstance, your culture, how you show up in life today, it's really about who and what matters to you. So that's something that we want to encourage you to spend some time reflecting upon. So life is precious and finite. That's what can light us up, that accepting that reality. It's also unpredictable. So what we're going to move into now is the whole idea of what if. What if the unexpected happens and you need some help? You need some help to support you to be with your bucket list and move through that list. You're going to hear from some of my fellow panelists about the public home services, community resources, and also private care that can support you in optimizing your life and fulfilling your bucket list.
Thank you. So, because we know the public system is so serious. Oh. So I'm Nardia, and I want to say I'm very excited today to talk about to be here and to hear and listen in regards to the conversations that we're having, because as a health professional dealing with patients every day, planning is integral. Being a pioneer in your own health is integral. As a healthcare professional, for me, knowing that that person has set their goals. So going through what resources are available for us. Sorry. I know, not a Mac user. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So the public healthcare system, which is also known as the funded healthcare system, okay? That a lot of the times, frequent questions is, am I eligible? What is out there? How do I call? Who do I call? What am I entitled to? All that resources are there. It's around planning and making sure that you're informed. So am I eligible? So for the funded system, In order to be eligible for home care services, you need to be 19 years of age or older, Canadian citizen or resident, unable to function or have some limited ability to function independently. So whether due to chronic health issues or health-related problems. And that includes recently being discharged from hospital if you are limited in regards to what your functions are. And having a time limit in illnesses, such as being palliative or diagnosed with an end-of-life disease. Who do you call? Ghostbusters! No. So each health authority or each health unit, whether it's Vancouver Coastal Health, Fraser Health, Interior Health, they all have a phone number, a central number that you would call in order to get one information and resources. So for Fraser Health, the number is there. For Vancouver Coastal, because we're presenting in the Vancouver area, the number is there. Anyone can make a call. It doesn't have to be your physician. It doesn't have to be, you can make a call for a loved one. I can make a call for my neighbor, right? So anybody can make a referral to the funded healthcare system. What do you say? You wanna be specific. You wanna highlight what your story is and say what your needs are. Say what your goals are. Right? So if you're calling, you want to, with the system, it's limited in regards to rules and regulations. So if your loved one is falling, say that. My mom is falling. I'd like to ensure that she reduce falling. Or I want to make sure she has a shower safely because she's not able to shower herself anymore because she's fallen in the shower several times. Okay. So the key thing is emphasizing safety in order so that your request and information can be recorded. And don't be shy to say exactly what's going on. Because when you tell the whole story, because normally that phone call is taken by an intake nurse. And when you tell the whole story, they will actually give you other resources so that you may not even realize exist. So from dealing with a lot of seniors in the home and community care, I find that there's a lot of, when you go into the home, you get this small picture. And then when you start asking questions, you realize, whoa, there's more going on here. But that information is not shared up front. Be okay with letting that go, whether that as a family member, as a friend, because holding on to that does not serve you any purpose because you're looking to make sure that the person that you're calling for get assistance. What are the wait times? So this is the key thing why I say being a pioneer in planning. I always tell my kids, fail to plan is planning to fail, right? In the sense that with the funded healthcare systems, there's regulations, there's rules, there's processes. Not that anything is wrong with that. That has to exist. So when the crisis hit, getting help right now may not always happen right now. And so if you're planning ahead and having those resources and identifying the changes and realizing, okay, mom's falling or, my mobility is declining, I probably should call someone or get some help rather than waiting until they actually have a fall. And then you're in a crisis, they're on the floor, they're going to a hospital where we have, for myself, seniors after a certain age do not belong into the hospital system. Being in the emerge with the highlights or the dry lights, or no lights of the hallway. So ensuring that you're planning ahead and making that call before the changes happen and before the crisis hit, right? Depending on the service you want, the service may take from 1 to 6 weeks. So if, for example, if you need a case, so there's case management, physiotherapist, different services that are covered under the funded system. Sorry, I jumped ahead. For example, a home care nurse, a case manager, depending on the need, that may take 1 to 6 weeks. So if you have a loved one, I can tell the story. My friend, at the age of 21, her mom was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. She was 21, mom was 65. She thought, okay, I'm young. Between her and her sisters, they can keep her at home. And she was at home with her mom, trying to do her best. She's 21. Nothing wrong with the age, she was mature, she was trying to do her best. Mom wasn't taking her meds, she wasn't able to give her mom a bath, but she still tried. Then mom started walking the complex and knocking on other people's door. She started wandering out, and she said, I promised my mom not to put her in a facility. But at that point, the crisis had hit. She was now wandering. So I remember sitting there with her, and she was gripping the phone, and I was like, okay, you're making a phone call. You know, she was hanging it on, and she's like, what am I gonna say? I said, say what you want. And so she picked up the phone, she called, she said, I need help now. And I remember the nurse on the line was like, with what? She's like, my mom. But at that time, they couldn't come in right away to help. And yes, the moral of the story is that at that point, she was in a crisis. She was battling with the other stuff, but not waiting till you get to that point, because they couldn't come in for a month, because that's just how the resources are. So if you know that the resources are then you want to plan ahead. What is covered? So what's covered under the funded healthcare system is medication management, bathing, grooming, dressing, physiotherapist, occupational therapist. An occupational therapist can come into the home and make adjustments. My colleague will speak to that more. Wound care, palliative care, adult day programs that are covered under the funded system. What is not covered under the public home care service system? Housekeeping, meal preparation, laundry, shopping, errands. And you may think, well, I struggled with this originally when I worked in the funded system. Why? This optimized someone's health. But what is key to understand, it's the need versus the wants. So do you need housekeeping? Do you need laundry done? So the funded system is there to supplement your services and your family resources. It's not made to replace it. So these services are no longer covered. How much does it cost? As a healthcare professional, I hear it all the time. It's free. Just call the health authority, it's free. It is means tested. For long-term support, it is means tested. So they do a financial assessment, whether it's for home care services, such as home support, it's means tested. Wound care services, occupational therapists, physiotherapist services are not means tested. Those services are provided. But if you do need assistance with your personal care, then that is means tested. And it's based on an hourly rate. So they take your income, or if you're a spouse, they take both incomes, and then the ministry already sets that guideline in regards to what is required. How much care am I entitled to? This is based on the needs. So it says there 4 hours per day, but it doesn't mean everybody gets that, right? What it means is that they come in, the case manager do an assessment, depending on what your needs are. So if you only need a shower, which is only 30 minutes, because it's all regulated, that's what you get. If you need medication management, because you can get washed, dressed on your own, and it's 15 minutes, that's what you get. So as your needs change, it gets reassessed, and the hours changes. Who do I contact if I need modification in the home? So you may have a loved one who has mobility issues, right? So in order to get services around that and putting equipments in place, then that's when an occupational therapist and a physiotherapist would come in. And you learn more about equipment design, bath bench, to make it safe. The key thing, what I want you guys to walk away with, is that the funded system or the public healthcare system is there to support us, because we all will, at some point will be accessing the system, and you don't have to be over 65 to access it, but it's there to supplement and help, and it's planning ahead in order to knowing to call before the crisis hit and putting it in your bucket list. No questions at the end? Oh, he's slacking.
Okay, so what is it that is in community resources that you can access? Now, obviously, the brochure that each of you has offers you a lot of information that I'm going to share, and I'm going to be going through a lot of information relatively quickly, but just so you know, you do have that in the brochures that you were put in this one that we were talking about. But one of the things as a dietitian that I find is one of the biggest challenges that people face is A, knowing which resources are out there, and B, if you do need the services of a dietitian or you need help with meal preparation or meal planning, adapting to healthcare needs, that's one of the things that, as you could see on the list, it's not covered, but it is something that is a major barrier to people, particularly if you've got a chronic disease or if you're in end of life. And having worked in the community for many, many years, I always found that people didn't know, that the services were available or even how to get hold of them. But there's lots and lots of options. And this was actually even brought home to me most recently, where I was in a situation where I had an incident happen. I was in need of support, and I had no idea what resources were available, and yet I think of myself as pretty well aware of what resources are there, and yet 3 months after the incident, I found out about some resources that I probably could have and should have used much earlier than I did. So, you don't have to feel bad about not knowing what's out there. I think it's important for us just to move forward. So what are some of those resources? Now, obviously, physicians' offices, health units, the hospital may be some of the most logical ones that we can think of, but there's a lot of telehealth options that are available to British Columbians. BC 211 is a toll-free line. Right now, it's primarily in the Vancouver, Fraser Valley, Sunshine Coast area, but it is expanding with the help of the United Way, and it's providing free information and referral to a wide range of community, social, and government services. And they also have a website that you can actually do some searches for resources, and that's at bc211.ca. HealthLink BC is another phenomenal service that I think is underutilized and often not even known that it's there. You dial just 811 and you can get connected with registered nurses, registered dietitians, exercise professionals, and pharmacists who can help you answer your healthcare questions. And also their navigators can help you navigate through the system and identify what resources you need. HealthLinkBC.ca is their website, and they again have a plethora of information to answer questions on diet, health, immunizations, lab tests, medications, and a lot more. 310 is also a toll-free number, and it's for mental health support, and it's a BC crisis line, and there's no wait and no busy signal. So you can get the support you need very quickly and when you need it. Another great option is the palliative care line. And, the palliative care line supports end-of-life care. Now, this is a number that you will be given when you from a palliative team or community nurse once you're considered eligible. And that would mean that you have a prognosis of 6 months or less. Another resource that a lot of people don't even know about is Veteran Affairs. If you're a veteran or one of your family members is a veteran, then and they've served in the armed forces, even if it was just for a short time, they may in fact be eligible for some support that is very, very valuable. Most not-for-profits that focus on health-specific issues. So if you think of like Alzheimer's Society or the MS Society, Cancer Society, and on we could go, they have amazing resources and can also refer you to things within your area. Now, I mentioned earlier that meal services are not covered and dietitian services are not covered under the public health system, but there is some limited support there, but it's often not enough. If you need the services of a dietitian, or if you need meal preparation services or feeding assistance, there are services available. Now, some of those services are going to come from things like Meals on Wheels or Better Meals, which are two great organizations province-wide. You may also have to rely on family, friends, and hire somebody who can assist somebody with eating if they need to. And if you can't eat, you have a major barrier to staying healthy. So eating is one of those things that I really believe needs a lot more assistance and a lot more focus. But unfortunately, not happening. One of the things that I often think about is, you know, if you think of your bucket lists, and some of the ones today were spending more time with family and friends, that may mean they're not necessarily at home. You may have to travel. For the people who want to travel as part of their bucket list. I mean, mine is to go visit the penguins in Antarctica. So, you know what, I'm going to have to travel in order to meet that. So how do you now match your maybe end-of-life issues with eating issues with travel? Well, my recommendation is always ask for help from the kitchen, from the cooks, from the servers. Know what you can and can't eat. Know what works for you. For example, when I took my 94-year-old grandfather on a cruise, we were able to choose specific foods that I could mash up. I also had a Starfrit food processor that I could chop up his food if it was something a little more chewable, because he had a lot of chewing and swallowing problems. We were able to make his meals just as exciting and interesting on a cruise ship, and then I was able to help him beyond that. Adaptive eating equipment that you can get from medical supply places is another great option. Housekeeping, Better at Home is one resource, but also there's housekeeping services that in the private sector. Transportation, and don't underestimate how much people want to get out of their house. And we've heard already that socialization is a key factor to staying healthy. So looking at things like HandyDart or Taxi Savers, and if you're registered in HandyDart, you can also get Taxi Savers. They have to go hand in hand. But there's lots of public transportation or private transportation services, as well as some volunteer driver services that you can access in your area. Pain management practitioners at painbc.ca is another great resource that can help you, because again, pain impacts our energy level, our interest in eating, our ability to socialize. So if pain is an issue, then it's definitely something worth considering. So when it comes to assisting your family, or maybe it might be a patient or a colleague, to fulfill their bucket list and enjoy food and to continue their journey, stay at home, you really want to make sure that they can access the right resources, are aware of what support they could get, and I hope the resources that I've shared, albeit very quickly, will help you learn to navigate our healthcare system in a way, but don't forget to pick up a flyer if you haven't already got one, and share it with your friends and family. Thank you.
Okay, just want to make sure, yeah, I know, all right. What I want to talk about briefly today, I'm a physiotherapist. I've worked in both the public and the private system. I worked with the National Health System back in Britain for quite a time, and now I work for a private company. And as it says here, I thought I was talking quite loud. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. So 30% of services in the home are provided by private care. And you say, well, why? Why do we have to have private care when there's a public system? Well, the system is overloaded. So unfortunately, even in residential care and in independent assisted living, we provide funded hours paid for by the health authority through the homes because there's not enough physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and rehab assistants within the public system. There are benefits that are quickly mentioned here, but I think the biggest thing for me is that sometimes it's not as timely going through the public system. It's great if you can get it, but sometimes you need it that day or the next day, or there's been an acute event that needs to be addressed. And so that's when it's good to be actually contact a private company to ensure that the needs are met. It's very important actually that when you do have a private agency, that you choose a reputable agency. And you can check that yourselves. You can Google them. You can also ask questions that are very important. These are people coming into your home. And any company that comes into your home, you want to make sure that they've been vetted properly. So, you know, they should have criminal record checks. They should have a manager overseeing them. So if there's any disputes or concerns about things, that you can go to somebody above them. You want to make sure that they're registered and licensed to practice as physiotherapists, rehab assistants, occupational therapists. They're all very important things that you as a consumer need to know. And those are questions that you can ask. You should also, with a private company, you make sure that you read carefully the service agreement that they have before you start, and that you are comfortable with everything. You can also, if you're not happy, you can also complain and get results and get somebody to follow up. So you're in the driving seat and you make the decisions. But sometimes there are the times that you do have to turn to a private company. And as I said, it's important for you to check that you do have the right company. You know, this was back in Britain. I was called to a home where somebody had gone in, and I found they were asking me questions. It was very inappropriate, the type of treatment they're having. And then I found out that they were unlicensed and should not have been providing treatment. So it's very important that you do check that and make sure that they go through the right registration and licensing before they come into your home. I've put some information at the back if you want to ask any questions later, but I don't want to drag you on. I know it's a long session for you to go through, but we can have some questions after if you have any. Thank you.
I'm sure he's been having a tipple while he's been sat down. So thank you, Jane. I'm also Jane. And I'm going to kind of just clarify now that you all know exactly what you're entitled to and how to get it, right? Clear as mud. Unfortunately, you might be feeling overwhelmed. Even us professionals in the healthcare system feel overwhelmed. There are so many parts and so many organizations that make up our healthcare system. It is a nightmare because when you need our healthcare system, it is usually because there is a health crisis. And it is not so much getting the practicalities sorted out. You're stuck with an emotional roller coaster because someone you truly care about is struggling or suffering. Maybe you're spending most of your time visiting backwards and forwards to hospital. When are you going to go sort all this stuff out? So my message to you is really, you need to plan it. You need to have a plan for peace of mind. When you go on vacation, you don't get in the car, get to the airport, get on a plane and just hope that you'll find a hotel the other end. When you go and you're looking for room service at a nice luxury hotel for a long weekend, do you just turn up? No, you need to find out.
You need to find out, what do they offer? What are the services? And if you truly want breakfast in bed on a Sunday morning, do they do that? And what kind of breakfast is it anyway? And what times do they deliver your room service? And how much additional cost is there involved if you actually want to have it in your room? And if you've been to many of the hotels I've been, you'd actually have to sit on your bed to eat it because there's no table. So these are things we take into account when we're doing something enjoyable. How many of you drove here today? Okay, I'm presuming that you all have car insurance. And I'm presuming that you would have car insurance even if it wasn't a legal requirement. Not because you expect to have an accident on your way home, but you want peace of mind just in case you do. When you travel, when you go on holiday, I'm probably presuming that all of you take out travel insurance. Not because you expect to have a crummy holiday, but just in case something doesn't go the way you planned, you want to have a backup. You want to know that you're secure and that things can be taken care of. When it comes to our health, very few people have actually considered the what if. And yet, as we age, we know that our bodies are going to start to fail in certain ways. We're going to be less able to do certain things, but how many people have actually thought ahead and taken care of that before they're in a crisis? So my advice to you is to do your research now, to find out what there is before you need it. And what I generally advise people is get a notebook, get a diary, start Googling all the different services that are out there. Find one you like. Even go and visit the private companies that you might use down the line. Interview them. Find out which ones you like. Talk to neighbors. Talk to other people that have used them. And in your notebook, put the companies that you like and that you would actually want to use. Put in the names, the locations of the services that you would need to access should there be a problem. And put that book somewhere safe. Tell your friends, tell your family where the book is, so that when a crisis happens, all the information that you've already decided is there. Because I can tell you, when the crunch comes and when something happens, you'll be busy having medical treatment. Someone else will be making those decisions for you. Knowledge is power. And that is how you keep your power to say what you want to happen and when it happens. Have a look at your home. Think to yourself, if I had a temporary health challenge or a permanent health challenge, have I got enough room in my areas that I live to actually move around safely? Do I need to get rid of some of the furniture that I've had since I had 6 kids and 5 dogs? Do I still need that now there's only me and my husband? Where is my bedroom? Is it upstairs on, where I wouldn't be able to get to if I had a health challenge? And have I identified somewhere on the ground floor that I could move a bed if I needed to? The biggest thing is looking at your house and thinking to yourself, if I had a problem walking, could I get in and out? Because the hospital will get you in. And then your castle, because everybody's home is their castle, becomes your prison. Because you can't get out. And if you're a gardener like me, imagine staring at your garden through a glass window every day and never being able to get out. So think ahead while you're still fit, while you still can. What do I need to do to my house just in case I don't have the mobility down the line? So be prepared. Use Google. It's an amazing tool. Don't believe everything they say, but they do have some amazing tools on there. Ask around. Find out what's available, what it will cost. Write it all down. And then the last thing to think about is, what do you value? What is important to you? And start talking. Talk to your physician. Talk to your family. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your friends. Because whatever plays out in your future, you should be in control of how that is managed. And you can't do that while you're in the middle of a healthcare crisis. So do it now and make sure people know. If you want room service, it's available, but you have to plan for it just like you do a holiday. Thank you.
We are out of time at this point, other than I do think that we may have the opportunity for a few questions from the audience. Any themes that came forward for you that that haven't been made clear? Any specific? Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you again for the opportunity for our healthcare team to be able to share with you some of the current challenges, but also potentially some of the future challenges. Clearly, though, the messaging is that regardless of what issues that people have, is that they are manageable, that there are ways around meeting your bucket list, and as with the last slide, it's just a matter of, it's just a matter of going for it. So thank you.